Thanks for tuning in to the NASCAR Cup Series starting lineup for the Grant Park 165 Chicago Street Race 2024. I'm Greg DePalma as we take a look, and there you go. Kyle Larson's on the pole once again as he nips Ty Gibbs for the top spot on Sunday's race. And by the way, Sunday's race is looking pretty good weather-wise. I believe the latest weather report is that it's supposed to be only 15%, 15% chance of thunderstorms around race time. So we'll keep our fingers crossed that some of that luck stays with us for tomorrow. Anyway, so Kyle Larson's on the pole. He was, of course, as usual, one of the favorites of the race. We did the show on Tuesday this week. Kyle Larson, Shane Van Gisbergen, the defending champ, was also 5-1, as was Christopher Bell. I believe it was a three-driver. I believe so. I think we had three drivers that were co-favorites. Tyler Reddick was at 6-1. So those are your favorites on Tuesday. Now, what did we find out today for practice and qualifying? Well, one of the things we found out was that, and we talk about it every week, we go over the combination of who's the best between practice and qualifying. And usually you have about, 4 or 5 on average of drivers who are equally good in qualifying and practice. In other words, top 10 in both. Well, this week we have another strange occurrence. Matter of fact, we've had strange occurrences the last few weeks, especially a few weeks ago, where we had that incredible difference between drivers who started well up front on qualifying and it was a complete difference as far as the way that they ran in practice. Well, this week we have probably for the first time this season, I don't think we've ever had, or at least since I've been doing this, because we didn't start the season with this show, but that is having 8 of the 10. Okay, 8 of the 10 drivers that practiced in the top 10 qualified in the top 10. So it's really one of those weeks where it could be very easy to handicap because this is kind of rare. And you just wonder, well, if 8 cars qualify to practice well in the top 10, then those are the 8 cars you go with. And that might be true. And that might make it a boring race tomorrow, at least odds-wise. So you have Larson, Gibbs, McDowell, Reddick, Van Gisbergen. Matter of fact, let me just go down the line here so you could see. Gibbs, McDowell, Reddick, Van Gisbergen, Wallace. Okay, those first 6 all were also in the top 10 in practice. Christopher Bell was not. But then Bowman was and Suarez was. So the only 2 who were not in practice in the top 10 were Christopher Bell, who practiced 13th, and Brad Keselowski, who was way back in 28th. That's it. All the other drivers also top 10 in practice. Who was the best? Well, you're looking at him. Kyle Larson. He was the fastest in practice. He was the fastest in qualifying. He was already 5-1. He's already the low number dude in handicapping this year. So I guess the big question is going to be is how low will his number drop? And I think it might not drop as low as you think, only because of the fact that you're going to have a lot of money on Reddick, on Van Gisbergen. You're still going to get a lot of money on Bell. And I also now think you're going to get a little bit more money on Gibbs because he was the second best. He practiced 3rd. So I think that if Larson was 5, which he was, 550-1, I'm gonna say he's gonna be around 3. He could be down to 2. If he's still 4, I'd be surprised, and that might even be a bargain. So I'm gonna say, and remember, we do mention that a couple times a year, it does make sense, and I think it's worth going for favorites. But it has to be at 4. Anything under that, I just can't do it. So will Larson be 3-1? Will he be 2-1? It's very possible. It really is. And then obviously I just can't take him at that number. But if he's 4-1, maybe that's all I do. Maybe I just sit back and go, I'm taking Kyle Larson this week. Maybe I'll put in a couple of long shots, and I'm going to sit back and go with Kyle Larson. Speaking of Chevy does look the best at this point in time. And that's because they had not only a strong showing in qualifying with the pole sitter, but they also had 4 of the top 5 in practice and the top 2. So we're taking a look at NASCAR.com. Let's move on over to the practice speeds. Here they are. So Kyle Larson, again, first, as we mentioned. There's Van Gisbergen, moved up. Well, he started second fastest in practice. There's Gibbs, second. He's going to be on in the front row, third in practice. All right, Suarez also very impressive. Like I said, there's Bowman, there's Wallace. Now remember, 2 drivers were on the outs in practice. So who made their way in practice? Well, Chase Elliott. He's one of them. He qualified 18th. So that's another driver who was 8-1 when the week began that because of his practice run, you might still be getting him at 8-1. And maybe Chase could be the best bargain actually out there because I don't see his numbers dropping. Matter of fact, if anything, maybe because of where he's qualifying 18th, your odds are going to be with you. Maybe you get 10-1. Maybe he's the way to go because he's also, of course, in a Chevy. All right, who was the other one that made their way in? Denny Hamlin. But you know what? He did not make his way in very far. He was 10th fastest, as you can see in practice. He was 11th in qualifying. So it's a pretty decent run. Hamlin almost made it 9 out of 10, of course, because that's how close he was from doing that. So Hamlin with another decent effort there in both. Okay, so let's just take a look at the rest while we're in practice. Oh, there we go. At least the ones that I think are important to note. Well, John Hunter Nemechek. Remember, he was runner-up in the Xfinity Series race last year. So I'm not sure if he's in the race today, but considering he was 12th in both sessions, he could be an interesting long shot. There's Bell. Let's see. Well, there's Zane, who finished second last week. Ryan Blaney was pretty much like last year. Matter of fact, Blaney last year was 17th in qualifying and 16th in practice. This year, believe it or not, 17th in qualifying and 16th in practice. Can you believe it? That's pretty hard to do. Byron, slow in both sessions, so forget about him. This week, Truex, I got to believe the same thing. I know Truex has got the whole road course thing, but again, street course, not the same. And last year, he was just okay, but they're just not going right now. I mean, they don't have a top 5 in the last 7 races, and they don't even have a top 5 in the 2 road courses this year. So yeah, I'm just not. And he was faster last year in qualifying and practice, and still had a bad run. Finished 32nd. Well, he actually was okay, but he had an issue, as others did. Remember, chances are we're not going to be wet on Sunday, okay? Unless, of course, you're hanging out with your girlfriend. But we're not going to be wet on Sunday, or at least she will. So I hope so. Cindric, he just does not look very fast in both sessions. AJ, a big disappointment. I mean, wow. Now, at least last year, AJ was 10th and 13th. This year, 37th and 23rd. What's up with AJ there? You would have thought this would have been a big opportunity for him. Berry was also slow. Chastain, he was disappointing. But when you take a look last year for Chastain, let's see, taking a look at his numbers, he was a lot slower. All right? And he really didn't have a good finish, though. So all of a sudden, Chastain was someone that you might have been like, or I was at least, hey, he's a long shot, he's won a road course before, but he was slow last year. Matter of fact, his times last year, Chastain, were 34th and 30th. This year, he's 14th and 26th. So he's improved, but he's still an obvious long shot. Now here's Kyle. You know what? All right, yeah, the 27th, that's not what we want to see in practice. He did not have a great run, and maybe what we saw last week was just a blip. Maybe this is proof that, don't expect much from Kyle Busch again this week. But last year, he started 18th and qualified 19th. Here, yes, his practice run was not so good, but he's starting 19th. He's starting right away where we started last year. Now remember, he finished top 5. He had the early issue where he rammed into the tire barrier and still ended up with a solid finish of 5th last year. So I am still taking and would take Kyle today. I don't care what the number is. You're going to get a good number. You're probably going to get 30-1. I still think he's a live long shot, so I'm still going to go with him. Let's see, Keselowski, I'm not going to pass on him. Buescher, I was disappointed in Buescher. When you take a look, last year his speeds were a little bit better combined than they were this year, even though he's starting pretty much in the same position that he started last year. He's coming off his best lap run in a road course at Sonoma, leading 32 there, and he's got 3 top 5s in his last 4 on the series, but not sure it's looking good for Chris Buescher here, or his teammate Keselowski. Logano is just really slow, and he's not winning back-to-back, so forget about that. And I don't believe... Oh, Haley. See, I just wonder whether or not the move from Chevy to Ford was just going to be the big whammy for Haley. I'm still willing to put $1 on him. Okay, I'll do that. But, that's a bad sign. Again, Haley last year, real close to winning the race. But remember, he was driving a Chevy. Now he's driving a Ford. He was really slow in both road course races. I know we talked about him being a lot better over his last 8 races this season. But it's not looking good. Really, really slow for Haley. 23rd and 39th. All right, so those are the practice speeds. Let's just wrap up. And again, I want to remind everybody to check the link in the description, because that's where we're going to have the report that we did on Tuesday. CJ Radun and I. Matter of fact, you're going to see the link in there from CJ for his report, rotowire.com. So you can check that out. That was not available on Tuesday if you watched the show on Tuesday. You can go back and check it out and see what CJ has to say about the race from rotowire.com. All right, so as far as qualifying, taking a look at the rest of them, there's Hamlin, there's Nemechek. Okay, so again, Chastain at least is 14th, so that's okay. Again, Blaney is red hot right now, and because he's red hot, you're gonna get a good number. You're gonna get 30-1 maybe. He was 35-1, so maybe you're going to get 35-1 again. So I just think when a driver's that hot, like Ryan Blaney is, and there's going to be some interesting strategies out there. The strategy failed last week for Ryan Blaney. It was a big F. So maybe they'll come up with something this week to make up for it. Keep this in mind. This is real important. As we mentioned the other day, 4 of the top 6 finishers in last year's race started outside the top 15. So keep that in mind. 18th, 26th, 31st, 37th. Whether it be strategy or what have you, the fact is that it's only one race, but you have to keep that in mind. So if we're taking a look at the ones outside the top 15, and here we are, well, right there, we got to look at Buescher. We got to look at Buescher, Blaney, Elliott, Busch. Okay, all those 4 right there. Who's how would I rank them? Elliott first, probably Kyle Busch second, Blaney third, Busch 4th. But Buescher, Blaney, and Kyle, I think is all real close. I just think right now, again, Blaney's so hot. And yet Kyle's coming off his best run. We know how good he can be in road courses. We know how good he was last year here. So that's kind of why I think Kyle and look, Elliott's the one that's going to get a good number. As far as being a favorite or a top contender, you're going to get long shot odds with Buescher, Blaney, and Busch. And so, how do we know another couple of drivers outside the top 15 won't finish in the top 5 or 6 again, maybe even win. Haley almost won, started 37th last year. Okay, remember that. Again, Justin Haley, he started 37th and he practiced 26th. He had nothing and he almost won the race. Okay, others, there's Haley again. Well, Truex, I guess, but I just not seeing it. As cold as they are, and as cold as they look today, it's just not a good combination. Byron just doesn't look good at all either. Forget Logano, and yeah, Berry's hot, but now not here. AJ, maybe the other one. And look, he's starting 37th, just like Justin Haley. So that's probably what I do. I'd go with AJ for some long shots, and then these 4: Buescher, Blaney, Elliott, Busch. Okay, now, getting back to the top, trying to figure out, and Gibbs, because this is important. Just keep in mind, sort of on a bad streak as well. No top 10s in his last 5. The qualifying and practice, 12th and 9th last year, so a big jump up this year. He was 3rd at Coda, 9th year last year, 18-1. Now, how far can those odds drop, though? Because we get some of the other good drivers up there. I don't know. It's going to drop, but I still think you could get 10, 12-1 on Gibbs. So I think Gibbs' numbers will be good. Elliott's numbers should also still be good. McDowell. Now, McDowell was one of our potential long shots that we looked at. And he is one of the 8 that did well in both sessions. So McDowell, if you look at last year, he finished 7th, and he started 6th. Well, he's starting 3rd this year. He also is coming off a 2nd at Sonoma. So McDowell was 14-1, and I'm thinking you're going to get pretty close to the same number. So I think McDowell is also another good play. Now, Reddick started 6-1, and last year he was 2nd, front row, 8th in practice. Here, you're getting Reddick at 4th and 8th. So you're basically right around the same positioning. And I think because of that, the odds started at 6-1. Larson's numbers are going to be even lower. I think Van Gisbergen's numbers might even be lower than 5-1. There you see him right there at 5th, 2nd fastest in practice. So, and even Bell, okay, who's starting 7th, even Christopher Bell will still get a good number, 5 or 6-1. So, as far as Reddick, I think you're probably still going to get him around 6-1. And he's still going to be my top play. I know CJ had him as his top play the other day. He's my top play. Our top plays the other day, by the way, CJ had Reddick, McDowell, and Cindric. I had Reddick, Buescher, and Kyle Busch. So there you have it. And as far as Van Gisbergen, in my mind, and we said this the other day, the reason why I wouldn't take him is because he'd have to win a 2nd consecutive race. He'd have to open the series with 2 straight wins in Chicago. That is extremely hard for any driver, let alone a driver that is not full-time, doesn't have the full-time team. Remember, this is something we've talked about a lot with some of those other ringer road course drivers, or AJ Allmendinger had this problem. Maybe even still has. You can be really good as a road course driver or a street racer, but how's your team? Well, that team is not championship worthy, because if they were, they wouldn't be where they are. They wouldn't be, hanging around with part-time drivers. So that's where Shane will probably, if he's going to get something happen to him here in a negative fashion, you look at his team. We know how good he could be at this particular racetrack, in this environment. This is perfect for him. But are you willing to wager a 5 or 4-1 number on a driver to do something that is very hard to do, that statistically speaking should be longer than 5-1 or 4-1? It's just a hard thing to do. And that's why I always pass a lot. Not all the time, but 90% of the time. I'm passing on a driver to win back-to-back, after he defended his, if he's going to defend his race that week, it's a no. And if he won last week, it's a no. 90% of the time, I'm going to say no. And I'm definitely doing it here because of the fact that he's a part-time driver. So there you go. All right. I think we've covered everything. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, Wallace was pretty impressive. I don't think we expected Wallace to be 6th and 6th in both sessions, that's for sure. Because if you take a look at Wallace, he was 31st here last year, didn't qualify or practice all that good, and hasn't done anything on the road courses this year or over his career. So I have no idea where that came from. And Bowman, yeah, Bowman. When we talked about Bowman, look, he was 70-1 the other day. He was 4th at Coda. He has had moments in the road course races. He was involved in a wreck last year, so you keep that in mind. That's why he had a bad finish. But he doesn't have a top 5 in his last 9 races. And hey, you know what? If you're gonna get 50-1 on Bowman, because the number's gonna come down for the way he's looked so far, he may not be a bad long shot either. Okay, Bowman is one of those drivers that'll win a race each year. He didn't do it last year, but he's still good for a win pretty much every year or so when you don't expect it. So maybe Bowman is somebody also that you want to throw a buck on, especially if you're getting good. Now, if he's 20-1 or 15-1 now, I'm not interested because I'm losing so much value. But if you're still going to give me 30, 40, 50-1 in that area, then sure, I'll throw a buck on Bowman as well. And Suarez, he's already won this year. I said that before with Cindric too. I'm just not betting guys like Suarez and Cindric after they've already won this season, because to expect them to win a second time, if you can beat me a second time, then go for it. I'm going to say you just can't do it. All right, so that will wrap it up for our starting lineup of the Chicago Street Race, the Grant Park 165. Please subscribe if you are a fan, motorsports enthusiast, and you enjoy what we put out here each Saturday. Because keep in mind, if the subscribers numbers go up and we get a lot of subscribers here, then we move everything over here. But for right now, our Tuesday shows are still over on Prime Sports Network. Again, the link is in the description. You can check that out. Let me know what you think. Where am I wrong? And let's leave Van Gisbergen out of this. We've already had a nice little dialogue with one of our viewers on it. It's an easy one. So give me something else. What do you think about the fact that 8 out of the 10 drivers have qualified and practiced in the top 10? What do you think about that? Give me a long shot. Somebody I'm not thinking about. And why? Just throw out a driver and, why do you think so-and-so might be good tomorrow? Let me know what you think. And we'll be back again on Tuesday. What are we doing on Tuesday, by the way? Tuesday, we're doing the Pocono race. Then we've got the Brickyard. And then that's when we have the 2-week Olympic break. So we have 2 more to go before the Olympic break, Pocono and the Brickyard. So check back with us on Tuesday. If we have to do it on Wednesday or Thursday, schedule permitting, we usually will let you know on Discord. So check out, we got a link for our Discord channel. That's what we use Discord for, these types of updates, things of that nature. So if you ever want to know, hey, what's going on? Why are you not doing this, that, the other thing? And you can't catch us on YouTube, or it's just not, timely, then go ahead and let us know on Discord. Hey, enjoy the race tomorrow. It looks like there's not going to be any rain. So far, it looks good. And we'll see how it goes, and we'll talk about it on Tuesday. CJ, of course, will be back with us. Check out the link, of course, for CJ for his fantasy report. And hopefully that'll help you get ready for the race as well. And we'll see you soon.